Imagine this. You're sitting across from one of the greatest minds of our time, a man who changed the way we live, work, and dream. That man is Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, the genius who gave us the iPhone, the Mac, and a world where creativity knows no limits. But here's the thing. Steve wasn't just a tech icon. He was a father. And as a father, he had a secret. Not about building billion-dollar companies, but about raising kids who dare to think differently. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey to uncover the timeless wisdom Steve Jobs shared with his children. It's a lesson for every parent out there who wants to inspire their kids to chase their dreams, break the mold, and leave a mark on the world. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive into a story that just might change the way you see parenting, and maybe even yourself. Now, let's set the stage. It's no secret that Steve Jobs was a complex man. Brilliant, driven, sometimes tough, but always relentless in his pursuit of what he believed was possible. He wasn't perfect, none of us are, but when it came to his family, Steve had a side that not many people saw. He was a dad to 4 kids, Lisa, Reed, Aaron, and Eve. And while the world knew him as a guy who revolutionized technology, his kids knew him as the man who tucked them in at night, who asked them about their dreams, and who challenged them to think beyond the ordinary. So, what was his secret? How did Steve Jobs, the guy who told us to put a dent in the universe, inspire his own children to think differently? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about what think different really means. For Steve, it wasn't just a catchy Apple slogan. It was a way of life. It was about seeing the world not as it is, but as it could be. It was about questioning the status quo, refusing to settle for good enough, and daring to dream bigger than anyone else. And he didn't just live this philosophy in the boardroom. He brought it home. Picture this. It's dinner time at the Jobs household. The table is buzzing with conversation. Steve isn't lecturing his kids about circuits or software. Instead, he's asking them questions. What do you think about this? Why do you think it's done that way? What would you do differently? He wasn't looking for right or wrong answers. He was planting a seed. The idea that their thoughts mattered, that their ideas could shape the world. As parents, we often feel the pressure to have all the answers. We want to guide our kids, protect them, make sure they're on the right path. But Steve's approach was different. He believed that the best way to inspire his kids was to let them discover their own answers. He wasn't raising followers. He was raising thinkers. And that's a powerful lesson for us. How often do we stop and ask our kids what they think? Not just about homework or chores, but about big ideas, about life, about problems they see in the world, about what they'd love to create or change. Try it tonight. Ask your teenager, if you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be? Then listen, really listen. You might be amazed at what you hear. Now, let's dig deeper into how Steve made this happen. One of the things he did was create an environment where curiosity was king. At home, Steve and his wife, Lorene, filled their kids' world with books, music, art, and experiences. They didn't just hand their kids iPads and say, "Go play." They encouraged them to explore, to tinker, to ask why 100 times a day. There's a story about Reed, Steve's oldest son, who was fascinated by biology as a kid. Steve didn't just buy him a science kit and call it a day. He took Reed to meet scientists, to tour labs, to dive headfirst into the world of DNA and cells. He showed Reed that curiosity wasn't just a hobby. It was a superpower. This reminds me of something we can all do as parents. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind. School, sports, homework, repeat. But what if we carve out time to feed our kids' curiosity? Maybe your daughter loves drawing. Take her to an art gallery or sign her up for a sketching class. Maybe your son is obsessed with space. Watch a documentary about Mars together or visit a planetarium. It doesn't have to be expensive or fancy. The point is to show them that their passions are worth exploring. When you do that, you're not just raising kids, you're raising dreamers, innovators, people who believe they can make a difference. Another key part of Steve's approach was teaching his kids to embrace failure. Yes, failure. Steve Jobs, the guy who built Apple into a trillion-dollar empire, knew a thing or two about falling down. He was fired from his own company at 30. Can you imagine? The company he started, the one he poured his heart into, told him he wasn't good enough. But Steve didn't let that define him. He picked himself up, started new ventures like Pixar, and came back to Apple stronger than ever. And he passed that resilience on to his kids. There's a story Laureen once shared about how Steve would talk to their kids about his mistakes. He didn't sugarcoat them. He'd say things like, "I tried this and it didn't work, but here's what I learned." He wanted his kids to know that failure wasn't the end. It was a stepping stone. As parents, we often want to shield our kids from setbacks. We hate seeing them struggle. But Steve's lesson is a game changer. Failure is a teacher. When your kid bombs a test or doesn't make the team, don't just swoop in to fix it. Talk to them. Ask, what did you learn? What can you do differently next time? Help them see that every stumble is a chance to grow. This ties into another big idea Steve instilled in his kids. Independence. Steve believed that to think differently, you had to trust yourself. He didn't micromanage his kids' lives. He gave them space to make choices, to take risks, to figure out who they were. Erin, one of his daughters, once said that her dad encouraged her to follow her own path, even if it wasn't what he would have chosen. That's huge. How many of us, as parents, secretly hope our kids will follow in our footsteps or pick the safe career we think is best? But Steve's approach was to let his kids carve their own way. He wasn't raising mini-Steves. He was raising individuals. Here's something practical you can try. Give your kids more ownership over their decisions. If they're old enough, let them plan a family outing or choose a project to tackle on their own. Sure, they might mess up, but that's how they learn to trust themselves. And when they come to you with a wild idea, like starting a band or building a robot, don't shut it down. Say, tell me more. How can we make it happen? That's the kind of encouragement that turns kids into innovators. Now, let's talk about creativity, because that was at the heart of Steve's philosophy. Steve Jobs wasn't just a tech guy. He was an artist. He saw beauty in simplicity, in design, in the way things worked. And he wanted his kids to see the world that way too. He'd take them on walks through their neighborhood in Palo Alto, pointing out little details. The curve of a gate, the color of a flower, the way a building caught the light. He was teaching them to notice, to appreciate, to find inspiration in the everyday. As parents, we can do this too. Creativity isn't just about painting or writing. It's about seeing possibilities where others see problems. Next time you're out with your kids, play a game. Ask them to find something beautiful or interesting, a leaf, a sign, a sound. Or challenge them to come up with a new way to do something simple, like organizing their room or making a snack. These little moments spark creativity. They teach kids to look at the world with fresh eyes, to find solutions no one else sees. One of the most powerful things Steve did was model this mindset himself. He didn't just tell his kids to think differently. He showed them. Whether he was sketching ideas on a napkin or debating a new product with his team, Steve lived his values. He worked hard, took risks, and never stopped learning. And kids notice that. They watch us more than they listen to us. So, if you want your kids to think differently, start with yourself. Take on a new hobby. Tackle a challenge at work. Show them that you're not afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Let's zoom out for a second and think about why this matters. We're living in a world that's changing faster than ever. Technology, jobs, society, it's all moving at warp speed. And our kids are growing up in the middle of it. If we want them to thrive, we need to raise them to be adaptable, creative, resilient. That's what Steve Jobs understood. He wasn't just preparing his kids for a career. He was preparing them for a life of impact. So, how do we bring this all together? It starts with small, intentional steps. Ask your kids big questions. Feed their curiosity. Let them fail and learn. Give them space to grow into themselves. Encourage them to notice the world, to create, to dream without limits. These aren't just lessons from Steve Jobs. They're lessons for all of us. Because at the end of the day, thinking differently isn't about building the next iPhone. It's about building a life that's true to who you are. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Tonight, when you're with your kids, try one thing from Steve's playbook. Maybe it's asking them what they'd change about the world. Maybe it's taking a walk and noticing something new together. Or maybe it's just telling them, I believe in you. You've got something special to offer. Whatever it is, start small, but start today. Because the truth is, you don't need to be a genius like Steve Jobs to inspire your kids. You just need to believe in them and in yourself. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with a friend who might need a little inspiration too. And don't forget to subscribe. We're diving into more lessons from history's greatest minds every week, from Lincoln to Mandela to Einstein. Let's keep learning, growing, and thinking differently together. Comment below. What's one way you're going to inspire your kids this week? I can't wait to hear your ideas. Until next time, keep dreaming big, keep asking why, and never stop believing in the power of thinking different. See you in the next video.